family. Welcome back to Dark Woke, your direct link to all things politics, comedy, and culture. I am your host, Janaya Future Khan, champ yapper and frequent nuisance in the activist and comedy worlds. Let's get dialed in. But just before we jump, Dark Woke is a self-funded, self-produced show. We're on Patreon/Dark Woke. I am so grateful for all the support and for you just taking the time to listen. Oh my goodness. I found something out today. I'm not okay with it. Now I have to tell you what it is. Okay, so, oh my fucking God. Remember how we all have microplastics in our bodies, right? Remember? Like, it was all in the news. We found out that each of us has maybe the equivalent of a plastic spoon inside of our bodies, just floating around in there. And then we were all just supposed to move on with our lives, having learned some new spoony slang just dropped. Okay. And like, I like the way I was raised so poor. I'm like, I got to have a whole dinner set inside of me. You know, like there's got to be a dinner set. Okay. So that's one thing. Just hold on to that thread, right? So remember how we've all become more resistant to antibiotics, and that's largely because of the superbugs, right? And something scientists, researchers, experts, they warned us about this for years, right? Okay, so how do these things align? Okay, you'll be happy to know, right, that a big reason for this is because, oh my God, okay, is because the microplastics in our bloodstream is the perfect platform for bacteria to gather. And it's called bacterial slime. So that bacterial slime helps to be a breeding ground for antibiotic resistant superbugs. This is how Neela Gross, a doctoral student in material science and engineering at Boston University, did this whole major study. This is how she describes it. Microplastics are like rafts. First of all, let me put a little pin in that. That's a little too upbeat, little too family vacation language for me. But anyway, microplastics are like rafts. A bacteria on its own might not be able to swim down a river, but riding in its biofilm on a tiny bit of plastic, it can be disseminated into many different environments, right? What's a biofilm? Here's my favorite part. Biofilms are protective three-dimensional structures created by bacteria from its own waste. It's poop, y'all. It's pooping on a raft of plastic in our bloodstream, and then it's just living in its own poop and breeding on it. And then that poop slime is the perfect breeding ground for super bacteria that then turns into super bugs that are resistant to antibiotics. And this is all just happening. So basically what's happening outside in the collapse of empire is also happening inside of our bodies. Much like an armored and insulated house, the oozy goo allows bacteria to safely live, thrive, and replicate. Where did I find this from? Oh, you'll love it. The Lancet. Lancet.com/journals, right? They have an article on this, and it breaks down this entire study. And yes, I spent too much time reading it. And yes, I also found out from this study that the superbug crisis could get worse, killing nearly 40 million people by 2050. This is what the study estimates. So we got asteroid, superbugs, civil war / race war. Like there's a lot of things that we have to look forward to. But we're going to be fine. I'm going to tell you why. Because every generation has had the absolute worst shit. I'd rather deal with this with like a COVID, and you've heard me say this, than a bubonic plague. That shit that was for the birds. Everybody was nasty and dirty. Capitalism, late stage capitalism, is our huge problem. To preface this conversation, we're going to be talking about a lot of things. A little follow up on Mahmoud Khalil, but largely focusing on the response of Democrats today. There's been no major breaks or news stories, but I want to be clear. We know this. We know this really, really, really well. This is a trial. This is this administration doing what they are trying to figure out what they can get away with. One of the most disturbing things that I learned yesterday, and I forgot to mention in the podcast in yesterday's episode, is that Khalil was aware that the death threats were increasing and feared for his safety, and actually 2 to 3 days prior to had reached out to Colombia administration saying, hey, I'm getting really worried. I'm afraid. He knew that something was coming, something was happening. The coalition that Jewish extremists and the Zionist coalition, the Zionist lobby, the way that they've been able to organize on Columbia's university campus, and this is not to give the university a pass, far from it, but you have an administration that's saying that they're going to cut $400 million from funding if you do not comply with everything that we want, right? And so this is forced allegiance, and there's always a for-profit incentive. We're gonna go through some of these, forced allegiances, but they're also creating forced conflicts across the left, right? Some of those conflicts are good. I do believe that the establishment Democrats are a rot on society. Very much so. At the same time, I believe that there is a huge, huge movement that is growing underneath the shit, which is how things grow. And as much as this is painful, it is a growth process. But what I'm going to talk about also in this episode, I have to name these things because, just all on the top of the head and some notes that I put together. But there's so many things. There's so much research out there. There's such bullshit that's also out there too. And we've gone through some of it. There is a very disgusting, in terms of putting us against each other, a way that disabled people are being forced to choose between their survival, right, or trans people. And I don't mean that quite. I don't mean that literally, but I mean literally these two populations are being positioned against each other thanks to this latest lawsuit on challenging Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. So that's something we're going to be talking about too. And I can't believe I'm going to have to, the kinds of clips I'm going to have to play regarding this fucking administration. And they're all commercials. Everything is a commercial now for them. Everything is a way to make money. But anyway, I've thought, why don't we open up right before we get into, Chuck Schumer's statement. I want to play, actually, you know what? No, I'm going to read you a statement because it's such bullshit. And remember that the whole point is that they're saying we're against anti-Semitism. All of this is against anti-Semitism. It's a pretext, okay? Because some of the most rabid anti-Semites in this country are a part of or in cahoots with the Trump administration. And somehow the ADL, AIPAC, and all these other entities, including this Columbia, Jewish alumni, administration, whatever, they don't care. They don't care about that at all. This is, it's just so ass backwards it could almost break your brain. This is Chuck Schumer's statement. I abhor many of the opinions and policies that Mahmoud Khalil holds and supports and have made my criticism of the anti-Semitic actions at Columbia loudly known. Mr. Khalil is also a legal permanent resident here, and his wife, who is 8 months pregnant, is an American citizen. Let me just, first of all, just for that first part, fuck you, right? Fuck you. And that was the number one quote directly under his statement. Love that, right? He's not starting out with the attack against free speech. He's not starting out with what this means. He's actually giving credence to the Trump administration's position, which again has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is the pretext. We have a major anti-Semitism problem in this country, and it is because of white nationalists. It's because of Christian theocracy and theofascism, and all of that is now being consolidated in the White House. And somehow, the people who claim to be most vociferously against anti-Semitism are themselves getting into bed with Nazis. I can hardly wrap my brain around it. But again, this is what comes down to horseshoe theory and empire collapse. How do I want to do this? Should we start? Well, I'll finish this stupid quote, then we'll make a decision together. While he may be in violation of various campus rules regarding how why are you even bothering with? None of this has anything to do with why Mahmoud Khalil was arrested. He was charged with nothing. The Columbia wasn't like, oh, better charge this guy with something. No, ICE came and got him. Why are you even bringing this up? This is what I mean when I say these guys are a fucking rot on the system. While he may be in violation of various campus rules regarding how the protests were conducted last year, that is a matter for the university to pursue, and I have encouraged them to be much more robust in how they combat anti-Semitism and maintain a harassment-free campus that protects the safety and security of Jewish and other students. All of this is bullshit. All of this is bullshit. I'm sorry. It's just straight up bullshit. He goes on. The Trump administration's DHS must articulate any criminal charges or facts that would justify his detention or the initiation of deportation proceedings against him. If the administration cannot prove he has violated any criminal law to justify this severe action and is doing it for the opinions he has expressed, then it is wrong. They are violating the First Amendment protections we all enjoy and should drop their wrong-headed action. I cannot fully... the level of weakness in this statement and just in general in this leadership renders me almost inarticulate. Like I want to tell jokes. I want to poke fun. That'll come later when we have to listen to these bullshit commercials. This person, he is so loathsome. I'm just going to, you know what? The decision was made for us. I'm going to play this Vigilant clip, that really summarizes where the Democrats are right now and why we can't stand them, why they are not the leaders that we need. And I'm not talking about all the Democrats. We have to be so careful with our language these days because we have nothing that we're proud of right now. And we need pride. I know I crack the jokes. No pride. And it's true. No pride, right? Super full of plastics. There's bacteria poo on our plastics and they're all living in their shit. Oh, God. I'm so mad about that. I'm so upset. I can't even see them, but I just knowing that they're there. Ugh. Anyway, I'm going to play this Vigilant clip because it's exactly what we need to hear when it comes to shit like this. There's an amazing crew of people, mostly representatives, that are talking that talk and walking that walk. And we need to figure out how to position them in power. They are not power players. They are not in the positions we need them to be. They want to be there. We need them there. That's where we have to strategize. But in the meantime, let me just remind us of what the F. Let me just do the screen share. Boom. Here we go.
The Democratic voters are not aligned with how the leadership is responding here. And right. I think we can demand more of Democrats right now. There was a poll in CNN in February that said that over 70% of Democratic voters are unhappy with congressional Democrats right now and how they haven't stood up to Trump more. And I think that goes hand in hand with the Israel debate here. How can we draw a contrast with Donald Trump and his authoritarianism? When the Republicans talk about free speech, what they mean is, can we say slurs on the internet again? Correct, right. Can we feel okay saying the R word? Can we celebrate Christmas? I mean, really, that's what it is. And then, but for the Democrats and for the left, the anti-war movement has always been an integral part of social progress, particularly on college campuses as well. So
this is 100% correct. The anti-war protests regarding Vietnam were massive. They were a huge activation point. And at the same time, what did you have? You had a very active, robust Black movement. You had a very active, robust women's movement. This is in the 60s. And you also had an active and robust disability movement. And the disability movement and Black movements actually have way more overlap than I even knew before doing my research and understanding this. You know, it comes to things like, you know, actually, I'll save that for after because we're going to be talking about the Disability Act, but let me just let her finish. So this is, again, Vigilant and Emma Vigilant. She was on MSNBC, which is great because there was a point in time where Vigilant would be considered too radical for a place like this.
When we're trying to combat Trump, drawing a contrast is as important as anything. And I think to bring young people back on board who have been galvanized by this, seeing images of slaughtered children over and over on their phone. I mean, there was a letter written by 99 physicians, nurses back in October to Vice President Harris and Biden at the time. And they said that at minimum, 118,000 Palestinians have been killed. That is a lowball estimate and much higher than the, 47,000 that people are still using at this point. This is an untold slaughter, and Amnesty International calls it a genocide, as does Human Rights Watch. The Democrats have to reckon with how young people have seen the leadership of the party accept this and then move forward in a more positive direction because they can, because the voters want them to.
And I think that's it. It's understanding that they can and that we have to push them to get there. Is that frustrating? Yes. Is it what we need? Yeah. 100%. So this is one of those days where there were so many things, trying to streamline them into a cohesive narrative of useful information, particularly of takes that are not out there. And that's one thing I really pride myself with in regards to our show together, is that we come with takes and we come with experiences that are not out there enough. That being said, today I was so annoyed because I just innocently opened up my little computer. It's a Kimmy Schmidt reference, but my computer, and I was just hit with commercial. And you'd think, oh, okay, well maybe these were ads. No. These were from press releases. This was from actual mainstream media coverage. And they were commercials that members of the Trump administration were putting out. So that's where we're like, I will be talking so much shit in just a few minutes. But if you'll stay with me in this sincere and important place before I frame things around the collapse of empire, with a more positive spin than what it sounds like. I want to talk about something that is important, that I'm not seeing discussed, right? So at this moment, we know that they're attacking Social Security, et cetera. There's going to be more about that, the gutting of the Department of Education, all of it, right? But disabled Americans right now are not only having to grapple with the attacks against Social Security, there is the potential for losing protections. Right, so not just but protections if a lawsuit challenging Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, right, if that works against their favor. So this the 504, and you have to excuse me for being a little bit inarticulate. Let me just take a moment, have a little water. When your blood gets pumping, it must be all the microplastics. Y'all know I carry this giant water bottle. I was at a mic last night and somebody was just, so I went to this mic and I'm with my boy Jake and, we're talking to some comics that he knew that I didn't know. And they're just like, oh yeah, it's such a big water bottle. And I was like, yeah, I carry it around because it makes white people feel safe. And there was this pause and then everybody laughed because it actually does. Like they don't know how to talk to me, but the water bottle is such an invitation. But no, the actual reason is because I have Gilbert syndrome. which is a very silly, silly syndrome. But it's why I break out in hives. I break out in hives. Everything that I say is going to sound like some sort of pop thing from the 80s. But yes, Gilbert Syndrome could have been a grunge band actually from the 90s. The Billy Rubin, again, could be a pop star. The Billy Rubin in my blood doesn't break down because my liver doesn't function correctly. And so if I get too dehydrated or too hungry, I break out in hives. And if I do that, if that goes on for too long, then it triggers jaundice. So I just turn yellow. And that's actually why. It's so stupid. It's such a stupid issue to have. But anyway, I just drank the water bottle and I was reminded of that. But it does. It's a great conversation starter for my little white comrades. Okay. I am trying to wrap my head around how far we've fallen as a society. Okay. So let me just say, disabled Americans who rely on Medicaid, right, to provide legally mandated services, right? This Medicaid for they rely on Medicaid for legally mandated services. They need it to remain integrated in society, right? So there's an ongoing lawsuit that is challenging these legal mandates. That's Texas versus, I want to say it's Becerra, right? It's filed last year by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. Of course, he's a fucking Republican. In response to updated regulations in Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, a landmark federal law prohibiting disability discrimination. This is where I really need us to lock in. Don't worry, I will reframe because sometimes the legalese. I had to write down these notes directly from the Washington Post because I wanted to make sure that I was getting it 100% correct. But don't worry, I'm going to interpret it if it's getting a bit too jargony. But this is the part to really lock in. That was the framing. This is the part to really lock in. Section 504 specifically prohibits any entity receiving federal funds from discriminating against people with disabilities. So that's what we know. That's what's important. We got to keep that going. The updated regulations focus mainly on ensuring equal access to medical treatments and websites, providing accessible communications, and integrating disabled people into society to the fullest extent possible. The preamble to the regulations include an acknowledgement and agreement that gender dysphoria may, in some cases, be considered a disability under Section 504 based on a 2022 ruling from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit that reaches the same conclusion. So you got to ask yourself, what are they really attacking here and why? Right? It comes down to that little piece about gender dysphoria. So the lawsuit asked the court to prevent the new regulations from being enforced, right? And to declare Section 504, 29, blah, 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 unconstitutional. So the specific thing around that. So many of the 17 attorney generals on the lawsuit said they want to prevent the inclusion of gender dysphoria in the definition of disability and not to overturn Section 504 entirely. Here's the thing, though. We know that what they say and what they do doesn't add up. It is my belief and other experts that they are using the addition of gender dysphoria to attack this protection and 504 at large and are framing it as it's really about the gender dysphoria thing. This is how they pit us against each other, right? They're recruiting as many people as possible and dangling survival over it's not really about us taking away your protections. We just want to make sure these people are not being protected as well, which, to be honest with you, if it really came down to it, there's fervent debate about whether or not gender dysphoria should be framed the way it is and pathologized the way that it is, that people have to go through that in order to receive funding for their medical care in certain states, gender affirming care, etc. Right? There's already debate about that. I would be fine if we could figure out a new way that wasn't folded into disability rights. But this is fucking nasty. What they're doing is nasty. They're trying to put disabled people in the impossible position of choosing their survival over trans rights when actually This administration and this attorney general that filed it in the first place is looking to gut all of these protections as a whole, the same way that they're looking to gut Medicaid. Disability advocates and legal experts say the lawsuit's text, as well as subsequent joint report, as well as a subsequent joint report filed in February. All of these things are available online. But again, this is a Washington Post article that is up right now. You can find it called Disability Rights Section 504 Rehabilitation Act. It's not the best name, okay? But listen, they explicitly target, so disability advocates are saying they explicitly target Section 504 and puts disabled people's legal protections at risk. The Claudia Center. See how I went full of Mexican right there? my homegirl is Mexican. Her name's Claudia. But the Claudia Center, sorry, my notes are messy. Claudia Center is the legal director for the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund. This is a nonprofit law and policy organization focused on disability rights. So this is a quote from Claudia Center, right? The legal director for this place. They're using these mealy-mouthed, tricky phrasings to try and confuse people and mislead people to think that this is a narrow challenge, and it absolutely is not. It's not a narrow challenge. They're using transphobia as the pretext to really bury their ableism is not a strong enough word. Ableism is not a strong enough word. They want to eradicate disabled people. All of these things are connected. It's the exact same way. You know, Musk, his dick doesn't work. He has all these people, all these kids with IVF, right? But it's all boys. Like he picks and chooses. He doesn't want, it's femicide, right? It's eugenics. All of these things, they're all tied together. Always. Misogyny, ableism, racism. They work together. They work in cahoots, right? And the stated intent of the lawsuit doesn't quell the concerns, and it shouldn't, right? Claudia Center and other legal experts, they point out that the language from the lawsuit characterizing this Rehabilitation Act, right, as a, quote, coercive spending legislation, that's what they're calling it. They're calling it coercive spending legislation that forces states to choose between complying and losing federal funding. That is what this language is doing, right? Additionally, the joint filing states that the lawsuit's intent is to challenge, quote, any purported application of the law to funds that are not authorized by the Rehabilitation Act, right? So what does that do? This challenges nearly every area where the law is applied. That's schools, hospitals, public transportation. So you're saying it's just about this, but then why is it challenging nearly every fucking area where the law is applied? You don't want disabled people in society anymore. Just say that, right? That's what this is about. Because the whole point of these protections was to make it so that disabled folks could be better integrated into our society that actually is a benefit to all. This isn't about making shit more accessible to disabled people. This is about making shit more accessible, period. It's not. Bodies and people and biodiversity, this shit is important. It matters. It's how life is. We don't get to swipe right or swipe left on the fucking body or the family or the skin that we were all born into. But fuck it. We get what we get. And we try to live lives that are full of some kind of fucking meaning, that involve some kind of pleasure and some kind of happiness. And I'll be damned if the strongest people I've ever met in my life were not disabled folks, because they are the folks who know more than anyone what it's like to be fucking told you're nothing and still make a life worth something. Those are the folks we need to be listening to. Those are the folks we need to be hearing from. And this reminds me why the Black Panther Party supported the disability rights movement so much. It was a co-support, right? Go ahead, research the 1977, the 504 sit-in that directly speaks to this. That's what's being challenged right now, right? This was in the 504 sit-in in San Francisco, which demanded the implementation of Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. This was when Black Panthers provided crucial resources like food and supplies to the protesters. Who were the protesters? They were Black folks, disabled folks, and disability rights advocates. It was one of the coolest things. There's a film out about it. I've watched it. It's fucking great. Little backstory to fuel the fire in light of these ugly, ugly, ugly realities, right? How much time I got? How am I doing with time? Hold on. Because y'all know I be yapping. Okay, we're good on time. What was the 504 sit-in? In 1977, disability rights activists and disabled folks, right? The folks that we think can't do anything on their own, that we need to either protect or throw away. Those folks, yeah, they occupied a federal building in San Francisco for 26 fucking days, right? We want to talk about, this is directly connected to Mahmoud Khalil, directly connected, right? Campus protests, occupations. That's what they were, right? We are doing the same things. So important to note that disabled folks were ahead of the fucking curve, right? 26 days, they demanded that the government issue regulations for Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. 504 specifically, as I've mentioned, prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities in federally funded programs and activities. So recognizing that connection between racial and disability oppression, Black Panthers stepped up. That's not the Black Panthers that we get the story of course, but if you know, you know that the most active thing that Black Panthers did, right, was education work and food resourcing. This was their food and their lunch and breakfast programs for children, their medical clinics. This is the truest legacy of the Black Panther Party, right? So at that time when this sit-in was happening, having been through the ringer already, having participated in this a number of times, having accrued resources because the movement was active, they were ready to go. Black Panthers provided hot meals daily to the protesters. They mobilized their community to cook and deliver those meals. And they published articles in their newspapers discussing the protests and the link between Black folks, Black rights, and disability rights. Right? Go ahead, go deeper. Check out Brad Lomax's role, Black Panther Party member with multiple sclerosis, right? We don't know him. We know, you probably have heard Huey. You've heard of Huey. You've heard of Mumia. You've heard of, Asada, Bobby Seale. These, Elaine Brown, these names matter, right? But Brad Lomax was a prominent figure, not only in the Black Panther Party, but in making that connection, right? It's all of these connections. It's just all it takes is one person. And he had multiple sclerosis, and he was a leader in the 504 sit-in. Disabled folks are not people who need saving. They just need us to get the fuck out of the way. And using trans people, using transphobia to try to further isolate the disabled community, to further isolate trans folks, and then to pit them against each other, eat a dick. Fuck you. I'm not on my Martin Luther King shit today, y'all. Or maybe I'm the one when he took the suit off. I am so angry my blood is hot right now. Having learned this shit today, reading this shit today. And I know you've heard me say this a trillion times. I'm working on it, but it's like, this is why I have to turn into a content machine. It's just like sometimes what frustrates me, and I know you can identify with this so much, and it's just like, it's so hard to reduce these things into, catchy sound bites when I'm like, no, this is just it. It makes me so mad. But it's like, no, then maybe we have to create cultures where they're not catchy sound bites and we're doing longer form content online and people need to listen and learn. And that's the vibe. And, I feel such an immense sense of responsibility to do this because I looked, and that I'm plugged in. I'm looking at the streamers. I'm looking at, the influencers. What are they talking about? The lefty ones, the political ones. This story, I haven't seen it fucking anywhere. I haven't seen this story anywhere. And I bet you though that if I look up of the more than a few, disability rights advocates and disabled influencers, I bet you they're talking about this shit. Because they have to. And even if they're not, we have a responsibility, and I have a responsibility too, because this is unfucking believable. It's disgusting. And that's what this entire crusade against trans people is just a ruse. It's a red herring. But they are never going to stop trying to pit us against each other. And it's part of their mandate. How do I know? Christopher Rufo. That little gremlin bitch that you hear me talk about all the time. They create these little mandates and they see them through. That's it. That's all it is. His mandate, this current one, this framework, is in the City Journal on the cancel culture, conservative, social, blah, 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 blah. But namely, they talk about the need for loyalty, and anybody that we go against, they are going to ball hard. Anybody that we identify and name, they're going to ball hard against them. We need to have the same kinds of loyalty across the left because they are coming after each and every one of us. The whole point is to isolate our communities and turn us against each other. Now, here come the commercials, because how does this relate? How does this relate to these little commercials that I'm talking about? Just like the microplastics in our bodies that are just shitting on themselves, shitting on their little raft, and then growing in their shit. I'm so mad about that. Why? Where's the study that says how to get rid of them? How do we get rid of I know that there's a knife and fork. Also here, there might be a plate inside of me based on how I'm feeling these days. Somebody's got to do something. Okay. Where's the science for how to get rid of this shit? Okay. What does this all got to do with, these little commercials I'm talking about? They are trying to isolate. This is the general tactic that they use, right? They will isolate each oppressed community by forcing us to only think about our own survival and our own interests. And then within that, they will isolate specific individuals that pose a threat to whatever work they want to do. And it doesn't matter. I want you to think about this. It doesn't matter if the person, they understand the right and the power structures and the powers that be have always understood that the most dangerous thing to their power, to its power, is an idea. That has dictated the entire basis of foreign policy in South America for the last decade plus, more than a decade actually, for the last several decades. The idea of revolution, the idea of solidarity, all of that is enough to come down with a crushing force. So our job is to grab onto each other and hold on as tight as we can. This is why I'm saying, you don't think it, but your fucking art, your thoughts, your ideas, they're so important. And everything in this world right now is saying, shut down, close off, get small, isolate. Don't do it. Don't do it. You want to know why? Because I've done it. You don't come out better for it. You don't come out stronger. You just come out feeling weaker and more alone than ever before. Remember, if you are feeling alone, we are alone together. This is where you talk your shit, and this is where you make your shit, and it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. It's going to suck. It's going to hurt. I had to sit down. I had my, with my editor, one of the editors, I'm meeting with both of them this week. And, writing was the worst experience of my life, writing this book. So much so, okay, that I wrote half of it. It was supposed to be a memoir. I wrote half a memoir. And the second half was an entire fucking polemic that had nothing to do with the first half. That's how badly I did not want to talk about my life. I have zero interest in me as a subject. I want this, you know. But, and the writing that it was bad. It was fucking terrible. That's what I thought. Do you want to know something? They both, my first drafts were my best drafts. You want to know why? Because they were the most honest. I picked at that writing, and I picked at that writing, and I picked at that writing, but the one of the editors in particular, right? Because one was working on the superstructure, and the other was working, more in the things. But I don't know. They traded. I don't know how. They know what they're doing. Pulled she pulled from my first drafts, the drafts that I no longer thought about, read, no longer cared, because I thought it was all terrible. You are not the best judge of your work yet. I need you to get that. You hear me? That's the point. You, when you start, whatever you write, whatever you paint, whatever you think, whatever it is, you should not trust you with the quality of your work just yet. You haven't put in enough time and enough hours if you're on the newer side of things. If you're just starting, even if you're in the middle, you might not be the best judge of your work, because you are going to be so mean to yourself. And don't, because I'm like, perfection right now is the worst possible thing. And if you are like me and you struggle with control, and boy, do I struggle, right? I'm like, I want to control everything. You squeeze too tight, nothing gets through. Nothing gets through. Nothing. So trust yourself to know that you're not the best judge for your work right now. The only thing that you need to do is make it. I don't care if you make it and don't look at it again, fucking make it. If it's getting out there and running or going for a walk, doesn't matter. Do it. Going for a roll, do it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how poorly you performed, whether your arms got tired, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Do it. Do it. The one thing that this entire administration this time is going to do is they want to destroy our sense of possibility, destroy our relationships to each other. We're not letting them do that. We're not. No, this is where we're doing our research and we're doing our studying, and we're going to come up. We always come out on top. We always come out on top. And if you don't believe me, just remember what I read to you about what happened in 1977 when Black folks from the Black Panther Party and disabled rights advocates and activists got together and changed the fucking law of the land when nobody gave a goddamn. When we fight, we win. That is a fact. So, what else has pissed me off today? Okay. Oh, shit. All right. Well, I said oh, shit because of the time. So, while they will try to isolate us from each other, right? And they will. And then they will pick out certain individuals and string them up as warnings, right? Trusting in the fact that we will fold under the pressure. And that's typically how they've destroyed our movements in the past, right? Destroyed is maybe too strong a word, but the unrelenting pressure. And here's the thing, we didn't have the internet before. I do think it provides possibilities that weren't there. And as much as it's gross, what we see, I do think it provides limitless potential for ensuring that the tactics that they have used historically will never work on us again. They will never work on us again. Elon Musk and Donald Trump today, these dummies, right? I was stunned that there was a commercial. Do you get what I'm saying? That there was a literal commercial. Donald Trump. First, you know what? Let me start you with the realest commercial ever. Okay, this is RF Kennedy. I just want to start this out. This is RF Kennedy, right? The HHS secretary with the worst fucking disgusting grift you could possibly imagine. What am I talking about? While they isolate and individualize us as marginalized groups and as individuals, they are scratching each other's backs in ways that are almost not fathomable to me as a human being. Please, please look at this. Look at this disgusting fucking grift.
A beef towel.
Oh, by the way, here you go.
This is RFK at a restaurant with Hannity, and a person is coming up. And I don't need to explain more because Robert fucking Kennedy Jr., that's what the F stands for. I don't know if you knew that. He's about to tell you the pitch.
Here's just take the red mask and I'll take those trays back for you. Okay?
Oh, okay. Is that?
This is you, Sean.
Oh, this is me. Okay, thank you.
And Secretary, this is for you. All right, gentlemen. Enjoy.
Thank you. You didn't pick up my Coke, did you?
Huh? Get your Coke. I got you, buddy.
Miss
You
Small
didn't
with the
forget
little
my
ice.
Coke, did you?
Well, I'm not
RFK, here he goes. He's eating his French fries. Oh, you're gonna love the pitch. Here's the pitch.
gonna drink it all because he's gonna yell at me. I'm only.
This is on Fox News. This is on Fox News. Exclusive interview with HHS Secretary RFK Jr. It's breaking news. Okay. This is breaking
Steak and
news.
Shake just switched out, and people are raving about these French fries. You taste them.
They're
I taste
amazing.
them.
They really are. I'm not. This is
Yeah.
not.
When I was a kid and I travel in Europe, Europe is great, always had great food. The French fries were always disappointment because we had the best French fries here. They had pommes frites over there, and they just didn't taste right. Today, the best French fries in the world are in Europe. I order them every time I go to Belgium or France or any
Oh,
place else.
but wait, because you can get
And
them
the French
here.
fries here just don't taste right. And you taste these, it's a completely different experience, and the customers are raving about it. Other companies, Steak and Shake has been great. We're very grateful for them for RFKing the French fries. They turned me into a verb.
Oh my
But
fucking
also
God.
Popeyes.
By the way, a plastic straw. Thank you. Thank God. I can't
Is this
stand
not-
those paper straws. I hate them.
Is this not one of the most disgusting grifts you've ever seen in your life? Like, remember that's how they attack Black movements primarily, right? They say that we stole money, we steal money, whatever. I get the vein in my forehead is popping. That's when my brain's really working overtime. But that's when something's ruffled my feathers, and my feathers have in fact been ruffled. But if you thought that was the grift, right, that would make you roll your fucking eyes, as it absolutely should. He literally just did a whole commercial for Steak and Shake. Unbelievable. Here is one. I'm sorry, if you're watching the video, you've seen me like do duck bobbing and weaving, but that's because I'm trying to pull something up. Here is another new segment of Donald Trump reading talking points the President of the United States and the weird robber baron billionaire named Elon Musk, overly Botox, etc. Looks like melted ice cream. This guy they ran a Tesla ad. I'm sorry. The level of fucking ghetto this is. Are you kidding me? No, here we go. Let me just open it up. Here we go.
Are you looking to buy or lease today?
Well, I'm going to buy, and I'm going to buy because, number one, it's a great product, as good as it gets, and number two,
He's standing on some kind of driveway or parking lot with a fucking Tesla. There's Musk fucking up to the eyeballs in ketamine. Just this guy's. There are biographers that are saying that he's actually in massive cognitive decline. This is person. They're not disparaging him. There's a biographer who literally says this man is in decline. He is addicted to several drugs. He's never not on them. Ketamine is just scratching the surface. I might read you that quote. But no. Please do keep listening to this Tesla pitch. These guys scratching each other's backs. I'm going to bring these threads together in a moment, but I think you can already see where I'm headed.
because this man has devoted his energy and his life to doing this. I think he's been treated very unfairly by a very small group of people. And I just want people to know that you can't be penalized for being a patriot. And he's a great patriot. And he's also done an incredible job with Tesla. And I mean, nobody else has it.
These guys are fucking. Oh, wait, no. Musk doesn't do that. I also don't think that guy's penis works either. You know what? You want to know why? Because men who are fucking and are in good relationships are not evil like this. That's why you have all these podcast bros out here yapping, talking the worst kinds of shit. Because they don't care. They don't know about romance. They don't know about having fulfillment in their lives. You want servants. You don't want human beings. You don't want best friends.
Car company started up in the last 30 years that's been successful. I don't think so. And not only successful, but super successful. And because he's able to find...
okay, let me speed this up. Shut the fuck up. Is there something...
The place use it, and they all are all excited about that. I'm not allowed to use it. Can you believe it? One of my great things in life is that I can...
They're trying to ask real questions.
I'm not allowed to.
This is in part why they want to control who is allowed to ask them questions or not, because actual media, right, real news segments, they would have questioned that. Is this ethical? Is this ethical? Here's the thing. They don't give a fuck about that. Now, here's something that might seem a little bit out of pocket but if you keep up, which you all have no problem doing. And by the way, I meant I need to keep up. I'm about to play a clip, and that clip is of Logan Paul, right? One of the, newly open Trump supporters, right? Very much a Trump supporter. And Andrew Schultz. Andrew Schultz, also a Trump supporter, and very much has the ear of the people. In addition, very much a huge player in the manosphere and in the comedy world. I have enjoyed Schultz's comedy on stage. Learning who he is as a person has been one of the most awful experiences. But what's been worse is how much he gets away with, not because, he can just say or do whatever, but everybody around him is a fucking cuck. All the men, including Charlemagne. Charlemagne the God, who runs one of the most listened to radio shows in the country, very black, one of the only black platforms. I really appreciate Charlemagne so much on The Breakfast Club. Not all the time, right? Not all the time. And he's not the best guy. But he asks questions, I think, in a very direct way. And for me, I'm looking at the rhetorical devices versus the person. I don't know the person, but I know that there are several allegations against this person. I don't know how founded they are. But what I do know is that Charlemagne is one of the leading voices for Black folks in the country. And he often will ask questions that are really important, and he'll have very important players on there. He was a huge advocate for Kamala Harris. Right? I don't just read things and decide that they're true or not when things are alleged, right? He's played a pivotal role. Anytime he's on Andrew Schultz's programming, he is a bitch boy. It's pathetic, right? It's fucking pathetic. Andrew Schultz comes across as much more assertive. He talks about Doge, he talks about this and that and the other. And Charlemagne has not been the best person for defending leftist principles because he doesn't have them. He's got some good thoughts on Black liberation, but he's not particularly well-versed. And why does that matter? While you listen to this and or watch this, I want you to think about how much money was involved. I want you to really think about it, because they're getting paid so much fucking money. And you want to know what money buys? Loyalty, allegiance. It incentivizes. And that's what all of this has in common. Here they're having a back and forth. Obviously, all scripted. All of this is scripted. I'm a wrestling fan. It's been rough watching it steer to such shitty politics. But again, these guys are not Logan Paul in particular, he's not some bigot. He just has major financial incentive in this particular administration in supporting it. He gets immediate tax breaks. He gets the kind of homogeneity that somebody like him might want in a country. It's the type of masculinity that's been, whatever. And all of the ramifications that we've been talking about will never touch him. He's a brilliant business guy. That's just the facts. So all of these guys are scratching each other's backs. And what are we doing for each other across the left? Just something to think about. Okay, so, and then they get into it on the, he's on the canvas, he flops, he gets tossed around, Logan Paul, then it's a whole thing, right? We don't need to go in deeper because I didn't play that for you, so, so that you too would become a wrestling fan. I brought it up so that we would understand how much financial incentive is involved here, right? And it's not from brilliant minds. I'm going to play this TikTok here from a guy whose job it is to research scams.
Let me reach over here.
This is actually Mark Lamont Hill. I'm about to play this in a second. It's a good clip, and it's about the collapse of our society. But no, here is the person that I wanted to play for you.
Musk is a weird loser, but is he a scam? Find out on my recurring segment, Is It a Scam Yet? He's been around Silicon Valley for a long time, first being fired as the CEO of X-Bank and then being kicked out as the CEO of PayPal. But he's most known for founding Tesla. And by founding, I mean not founding, investing, kicking out the founders, and then later making a large settlement that allowed him to claim he was the founder. But his true passions are saying things out loud that aren't true and making predictions that don't happen. In 2011, he said we'd be to Mars in 10 years. Then in 2017, he said we'd be there by 2022. He's constantly claimed that we were moments away from full self-driving cars. He also said that by 2020, if you buy a Tesla, it will be able to work during the day without your help as a robo-taxi, going so far as to showing a completely fake app. In 2014, he promised that your car would be able to swap its battery within minutes so that he could get a bunch of government subsidies, numerous tunnel projects, and then ghosted all of the cities he was working with. The only tunnel he did build was in Las Vegas, which he said would be fully autonomous, but instead is just a guy in a car will drive you very slowly in traffic. He also later admitted that he made up the Hyperloop promise just to get California to stop working on high-speed rail. He promised that COVID would be over by April 2020, that Twitter would have 1 billion monthly users by 2023, that Starlink speeds would double by 2021, that solar tiles would be available at some point, and he personally promised to fix the Flint water crisis. But did he do that? Nope. And I know it's possible that he's not actually lying about all of these things. He's just a dumb person. So he's a fake founder who either lies about everything or doesn't understand any of the projects he's working on. But is he a scam? Yep.
Is he a scam? Yep. These are not brilliant actors. They're just very wealthy, and the kind of backdoor deals that we didn't have access to, that we couldn't see, are now being made out in the open. That's what I need us to understand. That's what we saw. That's the through line between the RFK and fucking, what is it, Shake and Steak or whatever the fuck that company was, right? The Schultz, Logan Paul overlap. It's all of these things involve millions of dollars, each and every single one of them. Trump pushing Tesla to try to drive up the stock, millions and millions of dollars. So how's Musk doing right now? He's on Fox News when he's asked about what is going on, because of course we know they want to gut Medicaid and shit. I might have to push those things till tomorrow. But anyway, what brilliant things does he have to say to us? Let me just play. If you have any doubts at all. These are very short clips from Fox Business.
Call to action. You're hearing a call to action.
Yeah.
You giving up your other stuff? I mean, how are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty.
That evokes confidence. How is he running his other businesses? With great difficulty.
Yeah, I mean...
But there's no turning back, you're saying?
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient, eliminate waste and fraud, and So far, we're making good progress, actually.
Call to action.
So what is the waste that he's talking about? And I want you to pay particular attention to the language that's used in this very, very short clip from the same interview.
The waste report in entitlement spending,
In entitlement spending. What is that? That's Medicaid. That's Social Security. That's what he's saying is the major waste. And they're trying to frame it as entitlements, right? Because they know that their base won't know what the fuck that means. Funny, so ironic for a group that is so unbelievably entitled. But anyway.
Which is which is most of the federal spending is entitlements. That's like the big one to eliminate, because that's the sort of $500 billion, maybe $700 billion a year.
That's who we're dealing with, right? And I know we're getting towards the end of the episode. I'm trying to be better, keeping it like within a particular time, but there's this clip that I wanted to play for you. That to me really captures what I mean when I say collapse of empire, because it's not necessarily that everything's going to like fall to shit and the infrastructure or whatever, but that America has had a good run as the superpower in the world, but it never invested in its own citizens in the way, because, you know, he's calling them entitlements to obfuscate the language, but they are entitlements. The thing that's confusing me, right? That's confusing me so much is he's talking about all the slashing that he's doing. It's not like poor people, many of whom are Trump supporters. It's not like you are paying less in taxes. Aren't you concerned about what you're paying for? That's the thing that's really confusing to me. They're gutting everything. They're gutting everything. Actually, this would be a really good moment for me to, if you have any doubts, here is fucking Linda McMahon. Funny that wrestling overlap, right? It's all, they're doing all the backdoor business deals in front of our faces, and I'm just not seeing enough people making the connection points. I'm not seeing it. It's so obvious when you sit there and you just break it down. I am not seeing enough of these connection points in mainstream news. I keep CNN and fucking MSNBC running, and I know because that shit costs money now, right? Listening, it's not there. All of our, whatever, our pundits, the Majority Report, I fuck with them. Midas, I fuck with them. They're so heady though, right? They're so heady, and they don't create these very clear streamlines that we do here. We need these streamlines. Linda McMahon, that overlap with Logan Paul and fucking Andrew Schultz, two of the largest voices in the manosphere. So what's Linda McMahon saying now that she's leading the Department of Education? What does the Department of Education secretary have to say? And this is right on the right. As I live and breathe, I'm talking to you right now, there are half of the Department of Education, half of their staff is currently packing up their shit if they haven't already left, because they've all been laid off by this woman and everything else. Why? Is it just a cut spending?
With me for. Now, is this the first step on the road to a total shutdown?
Yes, actually it is, because that was the president's mandate, this directive to me. Clearly is to shut down the Department of Education, which we know we'll have to work with Congress, to get that accomplished.
With me.
The intention is to shut down the Department of Education entirely. That is the ultimate goal. There are people who have dedicated their lives, and has public education in this country been great? No. Could it have been? Yes. Were there parts that were functioning correctly as they needed to? Yes. 50% of those jobs have been cut. All of those people are people. They have bills to pay. They have medical expenses. They have parents to take care of. They have children. 1,300 people. Reduced its workforce by nearly 50%, right? This while USDA cancels $1 billion in local food purchasing for schools and food banks. It's so fucking obvious. They are playing in our faces. What does this all signify? Now I will play this final clip and then I'll round out this episode. So this is Mark Lamont Hill, one of my favorite thinkers and writers and scholars. I'll let the interview do the talking, but Richard D. Wolff, who I played before, I really fuck with him. And the question being asked that he's answering is the American empire over?
Let me reach over here and put on my red MAGA hat for a second. I'm going to represent the position of Trump, potentially.
Good.
Yeah, we're cutting taxes for the richest among us. Yes, we're giving more and more benefits to corporations, but that will create jobs. That will allow us to take risks. That will allow us to spark innovation. That will allow us to create the next big market that will allow for, more wealth for everybody. If we build a new internet, if we build a new auto industry, if we build a new thing, everybody gets a job, everybody wins, more money's on the table.
This was a reasonable argument. I don't think it was ever true. I'm a professor of economics. I've studied it all my life. What you're saying is a nice way, a better way than they usually do, for what used to be called trickle-down economics. You help the folks at the top, you boost the profits, you give them a tax cut, and it'll trickle down to a good job for me and all that. I'm going to be more nice now than I ought to be. There was a grain of truth to that, but it isn't anymore. And that's perhaps the most important thing that I can tell you. And I'll say it as bluntly as I know how. The American empire is over. We're done. We peaked about 12, 15 years ago, and we are on a down. And it's very hard for the American people, which I understand. I am one. It's hard to get your head around that. We've had a century of on the way up, which is a lot more fun than on the way down. But it does happen to every empire. We're only the latest. Look at the British, how far they've fallen. We're in that process. So the problem with the trickle down is, there might be more jobs, but they're going to be created in China.
Wait, that is such a good fucking line. Peak. That's the comedic timing as well.
They're going to be created in Brazil. They're going to be created in India. They're not created here.
Oh, that terrible music. And all of this, right? All of this has to do with decisions that were made before, right? Where they outsourced everything. And anyway, in the interest of time, I won't go over things we've already discussed, but you know what I'm talking about, right? But the takeaway from this isn't just, the through lines and everything that we've talked about, is that there's still life after the end of empire. And I think, you hear end of empire and we're already flirting with nihilism. It's not the end. It's not the end. Britain still exists, right? To me, it means maybe more for us. More power, more potential, more growth, more possibility. I have to believe that because I've seen it, because the sky has fallen in my life and in our collective lives over and over and over and over again. Even in the worst possible moments, how we show up is still a choice. There is a life after this administration. There's a world after this administration. And you have a life right now during this administration. That life means everything, because if it didn't, they would not be doing everything they can to stamp that life out, your life out. Do not help them. I can feel the slump. I can feel the stress, right, of these moments where we're just like, God damn it, everything is the fucking worst. Every time I read something, it's terrible. I feel it in the comedy clubs that I'm in. I feel it in activist circles. We're tired. And it's okay. It's okay to be tired, but we're here. You must do the things, whatever they are, that sustain you. And you must do the things that remind you, the small things or the big ones that remind you of who you actually are. You are not what you do only in terms of your job. You are not what you produce. You are that brilliant weirdo inside your head that only a small handful of people know, if they're lucky. You're that the smallest thing in the Russian doll, but you're you regardless. And that you deserves happiness and safety and joy and security. And I promise you, I intend to spend the rest of my fucking life fighting for that little person in you. And I will fight for that little person in me, because I will be damned if we lose to some fucking terrible fucking plastic surgery, old fucking men having old men. I won't. Because all the money in the fucking world, you know what they're upset about? They're angry because they're old. They're angry because they're old. That's it. This is a temper tantrum from people who are furious because somehow all the wealth and all the power that they've amassed has not led to the extension of life or the virility or the youth. And I dare say if we treated older people in our fucking world better, maybe this wouldn't be it. And also had insane caps on inheritance. But I also know that they probably finagle a way around that. I would destroy inheritance beyond an amount. Absolutely. Put it back into the society. But, that would mean that we'd also need less corruption. Anyway, now I'm meandering. Fuck. You know what? I haven't played a question. I am over time, but we'll round it out at 1:15. But I hope we saw the through lines here. We'll get into a little bit more tomorrow, but the main takeaway is that we have been here before. They're trying to erase protections that we won, that we took. They never gave it to us. And we are more than equipped to take it back. We are more than equipped to take it back. Here's the question of the day.
Evelyn, I go to 5 Keys. KR is my teacher. Yes, she's a good teacher. I just wanted to know, if you're doing comedy, do you like doing comedy? What makes you do comedy? How do you feel after you made these comments and these jokes? And basically, is there a reason why you're saying the things that you're saying? Is it because you saw these things and you're making jokes out of it? That's all I wanted to know.
That's a great question. And as many of you all know, I got into comedy, because, I love the craft. But B, because I saw a political need. We were losing the culture war. And that's where a lot of the debate was happening. And I refused to cede ground to the Schultzes and the Theo Vons. And, Theo's different. He's not trying to be a bad actor. He seems like, but he's got major financial incentive. Nothing that any of these guys say. And, Theo is great in terms of his interviews because he doesn't really take up a position. He's good at asking a lot of questions, but there's a through line of who gets invited on over and over again. But they all, like Andrew Schultz in particular, and men like him, should not be trusted on any opinion that they have regarding this administration because the financial incentive is too high. It's just too high. And then, I don't think that's unique to this moment or to this administration. It's just in general, we've got fucking Democrats. Establishment Democrats that are bad actors in that as well. Fuck them too. So in this game and in this day and age, there were rules about who you couldn't speak badly against and who can fuck them. If you align with this administration, knowing everything that you know, and I'm always going to start on the side of you don't know, right? If you know, and you still choose to support this administration, eat a dick, fuck you. We are not friends. We're not friends. And my friendship is good friendship. Okay, I've lost it. I'm going to start. I'll play the outro music. I've lost the plot. All right. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to Dark Woke. It means the world to me. The show really is a labor of love. We got new episodes dropping every day of the week. We're available everywhere podcasts are. If you love the show, please feel free to support it as best you can. Our Patreon is patreon.com/darkwoke. Don't forget, I want to hear from you. Drop your voice note questions to darkwokejfk@gmail.com. Shout out to KR and the JFK team, and shout out to you, the listeners that make it all possible. Love you! And I am going to make this content. I'm going to find the time. I fucking promise. It's time. Okay, bye!